What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward, as tomorrow is going to be a massive day for NIO as we have the very important earnings report coming out, not to mention new developments. But let me just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15. The offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about NIO. So NIO has a nice double bottom like structure. With this imbalance to the right, I do presume that the most likely possibility is NIO pumping for at least 4.5 or higher by tomorrow. That's the most likely case, but it's not a guarantee. Nothing can be guaranteed during earnings reports. So we just have to wait and see how that ends up going, at least for us. So we'll see what happens with NIO's earnings. It's going to be very key for how we end up moving. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. I first want to talk about some more data. So please remember, guys, tomorrow is going to be another important day for the markets. Tomorrow is Thursday, September 5th, 2024. Notes that 1 hour before the market ends up opening, we have some jobs numbers coming out. We have initial jobless claims coming out. And then at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI and Services PMI data coming out. Then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 30 minutes after market open, we have very important data coming out. This is the most important time to watch for volatility at 10 a.m. since we have the ISM services business activity, employment, new orders, and prices coming out. The services sector is very key for our economy, so we'll see how that ends up looking and look for some high volatility once this data comes out. Besides that, there's just a couple of bill auctions, nothing else that's too crazy, so we'll see how things end up going. On top of this, I just want to mention to everyone that for the way the market's moving, there's currently a 55% chance we get a 25 basis point cut and about a 45% chance we get a 50 basis point cut. We'll see how things go with that coming out. So it's going to be very important for us moving forward. Just want to call that out. For a couple of things, Dick's Sporting Goods announced their earnings. They did relatively well. And then for today, which is Thursday, we have NIO's. NIO's earnings are going to be very important. Sorry, not today, tomorrow. For tomorrow, it's going to be Thursday. Sorry about that, guys. We have NIO's earnings before the market ends up opening. So get ready for that. That's going to be very, very huge for them. So let's talk about how NIO is doing. NIO just announced their 2500th swap station that just came out. So big news for them. But now there's going to be a lot of talk about their margins. So I'll be watching to see what they end up announcing involving that. Right now, we're expecting about a $9.17 billion revenue forecast for the current year. It's also a 17.8% year over year growth, with the consensus of 2024 looking at a loss of $1.43, which is once again indicating an improvement from a loss of $1.75 back in 2023. That's what we're looking for when it comes to our forecast for the entire year. And then NIO is going to give us their EPS and revenue. As far as their data goes, we're looking for an EPS of a loss of 31 cents. And also for revenue, you want to see a nice improvement compared to before. The last time we got revenue, actually, I'm not seeing revenue right over here. I'm not seeing a forecast for revenue, which is a little bit ironic. But we're hoping we get a decent revenue, at least better than what we got previously. I'll look into that later on. But at this point, it doesn't matter, guys. What matters more is going to be guidance. So pay more attention to guidance. What do they announce for the end of the next quarter? And what do they announce for the entire year? Will we get some good forecasts? And what are we looking for when it comes to sales for Q4? That's going to be very important. We had 49 million in volume, so it's a big improvement compared to before. And then on top of this, we also saw Bank of America Securities give us a neutral rating. So we'll see how things go. As far as NIO goes, in my personal opinion, I think that with the double bottom that's formed, a nice cup, the share price looks bullish. It's favoring upside, but this depends on earnings. We're going to be looking at their EPS, revenue, margins, and all these different things, what their sales forecasts are, and what announcements are made by William Lee Bin and the entire team. So earnings is going to be big for tomorrow. I think the most likely possibility is we gap up and try to push higher, but just to be safe, we'll wait and see what ends up being announced. So get ready for NIO's earnings. We'll see how the things end up going for them, and we're going to be very, very optimistic, at least nonetheless. For SPY, we have a range that's developing. We're trying to hold this 550 area. I think that if we lose 550, this thing could easily start dipping for 548, followed by 546 and 543, which is where we have this gap to fill. If we're bullish, you want to break past 553 to push up for. I'm sorry, you want to get up to 555. If we break that, then yes, we could try to bounce a little bit. We're kind of stuck in the middle, and we're reacting to a lot of data. So we just have to wait and see what we get from the ISM services data tomorrow to see what SPY is going to do. However, considering the history that September and October tend to be bearish months for the markets. I presume the most likely possibility is whether we get some kind of rebound or not, it doesn't matter. We will eventually come down to fill a lot of these gaps. So I think there is still downside coming for the markets in the future. We'll see if we get a little rebound first on SPY tomorrow before we continue lower. But I think we will eventually come down to 543 over the next couple of days, if not within a week from now. So I anticipate more downside. We'll just see if the market rebounds first before anything else. As far as Nvidia goes, I see the same thing. I think we will eventually drop to 100. We could rebound, retest the 110 area and consolidate for a bit before that move comes, but I still hold the same view. For Bitcoin, we're dipping a little bit. We have a head and shoulders like structure. I could see Bitcoin try to push closer to 59,000, but then we could dip after that. Just want to call that out. For others out there like ES is starting to dip right here. We're looking at 5,500 as our main support. If we lose this, we could be dipping all the way down towards the 5,400 area. We also have this resistance to watch for around 55, 59. So I'm going to be watching this range. ES does look a little bit more bearish, could rebound a bit, but if we end up losing 55.13, there's going to be a bigger drop coming. It looks a little bit more bearish to me, so I do think it's going to be coming down soon. We may consolidate for a bit, but then downside is looking very imminent. For Tesla, we're doing a good job at holding up. We're actually looking a little bit more bullish than the markets. We're getting some strength. I want to call this out because we've been getting some good news, and we have a inverse head and shoulders like structure. So obviously the resistance around this 228 in the 220s is kind of like tough. It is possible Tesla tries to push tomorrow with the data since we have an inverse head and shoulders, but that's going to depend if we could try to hold above 220. If you hold 220, we're looking for 225. If we lose 220, we're going to be dipping back down towards our EMAs around the 214, 213 area. So I'll be watching to see there's an inverse head and shoulders, so this does favor upside with NIO. Might dip a little bit tomorrow morning and start pushing with the data. We could be looking for that imbalance to fill. For NQ, this is looking a little bit more bearish overall in terms of its trend, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little rebound. We might try to push it a little higher into the 19,200 area to retest previous support becoming resistance before we continue lower. So I think that's the most likely possibility, but we'll see depending on the levels. For the QQQ, we're just range bound right now between 460 and also this 464 area. If we hold above 460, we could rebound to 465. If we lose 460, we're going to be looking for basically 458. Eventually, some balance to fill around 453. I presume we're going to be rebounding, but then continuing lower as we have that balance to fill. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For Aapl, we could see a rebound as we're holding our 200 EMA. As long as we hold 218, I'm going to be looking for a move back up to at least 222 or higher. But then we could establish a lower high and continue lower anyways. So it doesn't necessarily make Aapl super bullish. It could just be a counter trend bounce. For a few more, like the IWM, this is kind of dipping a bit. We're going to be watching to see if 212 holds. If we lose that, we're looking for that gap fill around 208. And we have resistance at 214. We might bounce a bit, but then eventually lose 212 to start dipping. Amazon's looking more bearish if we don't break and hold above 172. I think that we're going to likely be dipping down to 170. We'll see if we could reclaim 175 or not. We could rebound and dip. Meta's looking more bullish. It could try to push up for 516 to 518, but then it could reject and dip lower as we have a downtrend being established. Microsoft has a bearish structure. We made a lower high compared to this high up here. So it could push up for 412 to 413 before dipping back down lower. So watch to see if that ends up being the case. And then Google's also on a bit of a downtrend move right here. We have kind of like a double bottom like structure. I could see a push for this 160 area before it continues lower. So I'll watch to see if that ends up being the case. Anyways, that's it for my analysis about the whole market. For NIO, this is looking pretty good on the 4-hour time frame, forming a nice double bottom like structure. With these imbalances to fill, 4.5 becomes a strong possibility. And the daily chart, the weekly chart's looking pretty good for NIO. It does suggest that we could be pushed to the mid fours. And then the daily, like I was about to look at, looks pretty good as well. So we're looking a little bit more bullish to me. I could be looking for these imbalances to fill, and this looks more bullish. It looks like it wants to rebound, in my personal opinion. So will NIO get the big rebound and a big bounce? Right now, we have to take it one step at a time. Let's see if we can try to get up to 4.5, and let's see how earnings goes. So get ready for earnings tomorrow before the market opens. We'll see how it goes and wish for the best. With that being said, thank you for listening. Get ready for NIO's earnings. If we were to see the bearish case play out, we'd be looking for these gaps to fill. We could be dipping down to 4.03 all over again, if not lower. If we lose 4.03, we turn bearish. So make sure you watch those levels, but I'm favoring that it's going to try to bounce and fill its imbalances above, looking at the setup and looking at how earnings may end up going. With that being said, I thank you for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And until I see you guys again, have fun and get ready for NIO's earnings. Thank you for listening, and peace out.